Do you remember this from the beginning of the year, where we reached the point of Tory politicians pushing the dial on the mental health epidemic to the notion that people suffering mental health conditions were just putting it on or making a big deal about it?
Before men learned how to control fire and put it to work, it was man's greatest enemy. In much the same way, your emotions can be your own greatest enemy. Or under control, your emotions can make you healthier and happier and improve the lives of people around you.
Before we carry on to ask what was and is going on with the mental health epidemic, we first need to learn about individualism, which is the moral stance, political philosophy, ideology and social outlook that emphasises the intrinsic worth of the individual. Individualists promote realising one's goals and desires, valuing independence and self-reliance, and advocating that the interests of the individual should gain precedence over the state of a social group, while opposing external influence upon one's own interests by society or institutions such as the government. Individualism makes the individual its focus and so starts with the fundamental premise that the human individual is of primary importance in the struggle for liberation. File that in your mind as we go back to the then Work and Pension Secretary Mel Stride's comments about mental health.
Mental health culture has gone too far, says Stride. That's Mel Stride, who is the Work and Pension Secretary. He says everyday anxiety is not a medical condition, says Minister in crackdown on worklessness. This is an attempt to approach the large numbers of people who are not working because they are too sick to do so.
And so many things and people cause us to respond emotionally.
So the question is not whether anxiety should be classed as a mental health condition, but why are so many people afflicted by it?
And in general, that's good. For there are many factors involved in a personality. And a balance of emotions is important to a well-rounded personality.
Back to Mel Stride's statement, and here we see another Tory politician defending it.
Do you think he's right?
I do think he's right. I think this is very serious in terms of the long-term health of the UK economy and our capacity to deliver public services. We've got 9.25 million people who are not in work or education, many of whom are sick.
So no mention of the reason why, just concern that these people aren't contributing to society.
And I think the most striking point that Mel Stride made was that 94% of people who go into a doctor, a GP, who say they have a mental health issue, within 7 minutes they are prescribed with drugs, and the doctor says, you have a mental health problem, here are the drugs, and signs them off.
So what is going on here? So remember earlier when I talked about individualism? Well, during the reign of Thatcher and Reagan, individualism was promoted as a virtue. Less state interference and more focus on you looking after yourself. This and an attitude that, along with responsibilisation, the idea that you are responsible and not the state for your own success and well-being, has pervaded up to the present day. Of course, in a free market economy, one where we are competing against each other, not everybody is going to be a success. Some people will crumble against the ever-diminishing work prospects on offer, believing that something is wrong with themselves. Stress and anxiety is baked into the free market model, and when you can't cope, competing to earn a living, instead of looking at the way we live and asking, is this the best way to structure a society? We believe something is malfunctioning with ourselves. Click here for an ethical dilemma.